Assalamu alaikum. I am here to talk to you about how important it is for you to actually make a plan and time your meals, because what you are eating is not just about what's on your plate, but when it's on your plate. So we talk a lot about intermittent fasting and how important it is for you to have nutrient timing. But even if you don't do intermittent fasting, I want to talk to you today a little bit about what the research says about when you eat and how important that is and how it affects your digestion and how it affects your health overall. So if you are just tuning in because it seemed like an interesting topic that you'd be interested in hearing a little bit more about, my name is Mubarakah Ibrahim and I am your health and happiness coach. And today we are talking about food timing and what time you should eat for the best health outcome. Now, I know for me and my family, our schedule used to be a little bit of everywhere. Sometimes we eat at 5 o'clock in the evening. Sometimes we eat at 8 o'clock in the evening. Honestly, it really depends on who's cooking, because some people in my house just like to cook a little later than others. I will not talk particularly about my husband, but sometimes you just be grateful that you're not the one that has to cook. So I want to talk to you about what your digestive system is doing when you choose to eat really late at night. So it's important that we know a couple of things. Number one, you know that a circadian rhythm is how our body reacts and ebbs and flows with the way that the sun rises, the sun sets, the time of month that it is. We know this normally related to how we sleep, right? We think about circadian rhythm as, hey, you're supposed to be up during the day and so you sleep at night, or I get tired at the same time every day, right? In the Quran, Allah, He actually tells us, I have created the day for you to move about and the night for you to rest. So we are even given inclinations inside of the Quran about what the circadian rhythm does for our body. Well, in addition to just sleep and being able to rest and restore at night, circadian rhythm actually exists for every body organ that we have. That is actually a really new research that we have found out, that there are cells that are called melanopsin cells that exist in our liver, in our kidneys, in our stomach, in every organ in our body. And they too have a circadian rhythm. So let's particularly talk about the circadian rhythm that's inside of our digestive system and how when we eat, particularly when we eat at night, affects our digestive system. Oftentimes people have pretty late dinners, right? So sometimes it's just because you're working late, or maybe you just choose that, hey, it's easier to eat at 8 than it is at 6. But I'm going to give you a little bit of information that's going to help you hopefully make better health decisions by simply tweaking the time that you eat dinner. So there are 5 things that's happening to your body when we choose to eat late. And so the question, I know the very first question is, what is considered late when it comes to dinner? So what we know from research is that they've looked at, so there's a particular Japanese study that I was looking at prior to getting ready for this live, and it actually compared what happens in people's bodies when they eat dinner at 6 p.m. at night versus 11 p.m. at night, right? So what's going to happen? And I want you to think of this not just in terms of dinner, but in terms of late night snacking, in terms of, having that little one extra, thing before you go to bed. I want you to think about it in those terms as well, where there are 5 things that happen. So like I said a little bit ago, that our digestive system has a circadian rhythm. And what we know is that circadian rhythm is also attached to or is controlled by the daylight, right? So as the sun begins to set, our circadian rhythm, our body begins to detect that the light is going down, and then it begins the process of us resting and restoring for the evening time. Well, one of the things that happens is our digestive system also begins to prepare for rest. So what we know is that the stomach acids inside of our stomach actually produce less stomach acid in the evening time than it does in the daytime. So the first thing that happens when you eat late at night is that your food takes a longer time to digest. So this can lead to a lot of digestive disturbances, not just right around your meal, but all the way up to the next morning. If you're one of those people that you wake up in the morning and, excuse my bluntness, but you wake up and you have gas, right? And you have your tummy hurting in the morning and you're like, I didn't even eat anything. Why am I passing gas? It could be not what you ate, but how late you ate in the evening, right? Because the food takes longer to digest because there's less stomach acids to digest it. And so if your food is staying longer inside of your stomach, as opposed to being able to go efficiently through the small intestines, the large intestines, the colon. Remember, the small intestines and the large intestines are the parts of our body that draws out the nutrients from the food. So that leads us to the second thing that happens when we eat late at night. We actually get less nutrients from the same foods that if we had eaten earlier in the day, they would have been digested in its proper time, and the nutrients would have been able to pull it out in the proper time, right? So if you think of kind of like the digestive process in a way where the stomach acids break it down and like open up the cells. And so when those cells are open, it now then goes to the next stage into your digestive system where it's able to absorb all of the vitamins, the minerals, all of the good things that your body needs, right? But if it's hanging around inside of the stomach acids, not only is it just taking a super long time in order for your food to be broken down, but what's also happening is it's actually leaching out in but many of the nutrients that your intestines would otherwise have access to, but they don't because your food is taking a super long time to get to them. So, I said I was going to give you 5. 1 is your food takes a really long time to digest, and that is hard on your digestive system. Number 2, you extract less nutrients from your food. Number 3, you're also distracting your body from using its energy during the time that it should be resting to do other things like detoxifying your body and detoxifying your brain so that you can think more clear. So one of the reasons why people who are sleep deprived actually don't they have a hard time, they eventually will have a hard time with their memory, right? They suffer from brain fog. That's not just because, oh my gosh, I'm just tired. When you are sleeping, your brain actually uses that time to detoxify itself. It literally cleans out all of the cobwebs. It stores the things that happen during the day in your long-term memory or short-term memory. It's like all of these functions come out so that your brain can be healthy. Well, if you never get to that state, or if you cannot efficiently actually relax your body enough and have the energy that would normally go to other things go to the functioning of the brain, that does not happen in an efficient way. And so when people are sleep deprived, they get brain fog. They can't remember as well. They have a harder time doing complex tasks and sometimes simple tasks. That's because the brain isn't doing what it needs to do in the evening time. So that is the third thing that happens to your body when you are eating late at night. Ways that you're compromising your health. Another thing that happens to your body is that you don't sleep. You don't get quality sleep. So if you think of the body's energy as we only have a 100% battery, right? And with our circadian rhythm, our body actually says, okay, well, I'm digesting food now, so I need to take 40% of that energy input to digestion, and I can take 60% and I can use it for something else. I had a conversation the other day with a client about exercising immediately after eating. So this is just, it's a side note, but an example of what happens with the energy flow in our body and our blood flow in particular. When your body has to digest, that takes a lot of work, right? Your body needs to divert blood flow and energy to your digestive system in order for it to digest your food. But if you're eating a big meal and then getting up and you're working out, or you're eating a big meal and then you're trying to go to sleep, the body is saying, hey, I have to send this energy into the digestion process. I don't have that much energy in order to send to the muscles for it to work. I don't have as much energy as I need in order to send to the brain for it to detoxify, or the liver for it to clear out its glucose. Your body is actually competing with energy, and so that's why it's actually hard sleeping on a full stomach, because your body needs the energy and the blood flow to go to the digestive system. So that's the fourth thing. The fifth thing, which I think is the absolutely most important reason why you should not eat late at night, is because its effects on your hormones, particularly on your insulin hormone. So one of the things that happens when we sleep, and why sleep is restorative, is it is the only time, because we are not actively eating, that our body gets our insulin level. And so this is for everybody, whether or not you follow keto, whether you follow intermittent fasting, no matter what you do. As human beings, when our body is sleeping, then our insulin level actually gets to lower because we are not eating. Anytime you eat, it doesn't matter what type of diet that you follow. This happens when you're following a ketogenic diet, right? Our bodies, it raises insulin level. How high it's raised is depending on the food that you eat, but there is always a raise of insulin level after you eat, right? So that's one of the reasons why I tell people, if you're following a ketogenic diet and you check your ketones, don't check them immediately after your meals, because they're always going to be lower. That was another side note. Y'all know I go off on a tangent sometime. But here is the thing. When you eat late at night, your insulin level rises. And there are lots of things that happens when your insulin level rises. And when it's higher at night, then all of the bodily functions that need to occur is insulin dependent, and it's dependent on your insulin level lowering. So we know, and I've talked about this before, autophagy, your body's ability to cleanse and recycle and reuse and restore its cells. This is a natural process, and it happens most efficiently in the evening night rest period, because we're not eating and our insulin level lowers, because autophagy cannot happen at the same time your insulin level is high, right? So when you're eating and then you're going to sleep, normally your body is like, okay, this is a time that the insulin is going to be out of the way, and I'm going to have the opportunity to do some cleaning and recycling and restoring of cells. But the insulin level is still here because a couple of things are happening. Number one, you just ate, and when your body is supposed to be dropping insulin because it didn't eat in several hours, it's not dropping. That's number one. Number two, you ate something that was carb filled or sweet filled or sugar filled, and the insulin level is even higher, and it's not going anywhere. It's not digesting the way that it needs to, because what did we say? The first thing that happens is you have less stomach acid, you have less breakdown inside of the digestive system. So not only did it raise your insulin level, but your insulin level is higher longer. Now, here is the other thing, which was actually a surprise to me when I read the research study, is not only is your insulin level higher at nighttime when you're sleeping, when it's supposed to be low, but they found that people who ate late at night and then they went to bed and they ate breakfast the next morning, their blood glucose level was higher for up to 3 full hours than people who ate earlier in the evening. So I want you to think about this as a comparison. Eating the same food, one person eats at 6 p.m., another person eats at 11 p.m. They both sleep for 7 hours and they wake up and eat breakfast and they eat the same breakfast, right? So we're not changing the types of foods that they're eating. We're not changing the hours of sleep that they had. The only difference was when they ate dinner, right? They wake up and they eat breakfast. What happens, which was a surprise to me, I don't know if it was a surprise to researchers, was the person that ate at 11 p.m., their blood glucose level is higher than the person who ate at 6 p.m., even though they're eating the same foods. So that's significant. So if you are pre-diabetic, if you are diabetic, if you have any insulin or metabolic diseases, PCOS, obesity, anything like that, you want to be super conscious of the things that keeps blood glucose high and causes your insulin level to rise. And so eating late at night is one of those things. And it's not just about what you eat, it's about when you eat. That's really important, and you're going to hear me say that over and over again. So one of the things that you can do, that you can tweak, right? When you don't know what to do to get started, I'm giving you tips on little things that you can tweak in your lifestyle that's going to allow you to actually start on your health and wellness journey, right? It's not going to, have you lose 10 pounds overnight, but these little things done consistently can make a huge difference in your health and wellness. So first, we want to try to have dinner before around 7 p.m., right? So when does those gastric acids start decreasing? Round about 7, 8 p.m. That is what the research is showing us, is around 7 or 8 p.m. So this is, again, I want to really reiterate that this is not just about eating junk or eating high carb meals, or it's eating anything. So even if you are, say, hey, I'm going to have a salad, right? And it's 11 p.m. Your body still has to digest it. You're still going to have all of these issues, right? So, that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. So I see a couple of people have a couple of comments. I'm going to go. It says, I work late at night, even though I make good choices, it's not helping me. Yes, shift work is actually a huge concern. So shift work, when they looked at people who worked at night, there's a couple of things. So it's a huge concern because, one, it disrupts their circadian rhythm. There's lots of research around shift work. We're talking doctors and nurses that work like 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., right? You're working and your most active time is in the evening when the sun is down, as opposed to in the daytime. So we know that we need these people and we appreciate your sacrifice. But what you should know for your health is that there's a couple of things that it puts you at higher risk of diabetes, at higher risk of obesity. It puts you at higher risk of actually some cancers as well. And they actually looked at circadian rhythm and digestion and how it affects, and people who do shift work are more likely to develop things like IBS, which is irritable bowel syndrome. But I'm going to give you a few quick, since you mentioned it, I'm going to give you a few quick tips for people who are shift workers. Number one, the research shows that if you can make your schedule consistent, as opposed to, hey, this week I'm working nights and this week I'm working days and those weeks and the next week I'm working afternoons, then you're actually going to be better off, right? So it is the lesser of the two evils, right? To actually make it consistent. When you do sleep, if you have to sleep in the daytime, make sure you have light blocking curtains and you're sleeping in a completely dark room. You want to simulate the evening time, right? The other thing is that you actually want to wake up about an hour or two before you need to be the most active and expose yourself to light. So basically, you're trying to artificially change the light cycle of your day, right? In order for you to try to work with the circadian rhythm that you have with your job. So those are some tips that hopefully can help you. The other thing that I would recommend for sure is try to keep your meals according to when you are the most active, right? So just because you get off of work at 12 o'clock in the afternoon doesn't mean that you need to, you have to eat, right? I'm gonna eat, 12 o'clock is lunchtime, so I'm gonna eat at 12 o'clock and then I'm gonna go to sleep at 1. You don't wanna do that. Again, think about it in terms of rest and restore. I'm gonna have to do a whole separate video on that because I don't want people to confuse my advice for shift workers for other things. So that is actually a good topic and we'll talk about that soon. All right, so that is how when you eat is just as important as what you eat. If you found this helpful, why don't you go ahead and share, subscribe to the lives, and I will talk to you soon. All right, assalamu alaikum.